Hello, I'm Rob O'Donoghue from the Environmental Learning Research Centre. And commonly in ESD, we're presented with problems to solve. But one of the things that we've learned through handprint care is to look at the past to understand the present. And our question here is, how did human activities and climate shape the early agroecological cultures of Southern Africa? And what can we learn from this? Well, it's a fascinating story of centuries of land taming creating the wonderful sustainable landscapes that were there in pre-colonial times. For centuries, the southerly migration in Central and Southern Africa, indigenous cattle people settled on wooded landscapes in distributed villages. Here they practiced forms of shifting agriculture or slash and burn agriculture. In Zambia, it's called chitimene. That slowly expanded the grasslands of Southern Africa. And we're particularly interested in the Bokoni in the south. And a key technology amongst these early indigenous communities was that they're able to track the seasonal movement of the sun, bringing the summer rains. So within the tropics, successive dynastic groups read the movement of the sun and seasonal change to reliably predict the reliable arrival of summer rains for planting crops. Now, in curriculum, looking at climate and seasonal cycles, and in the SDGs, looking at climate change and extreme events, it's possible to see how south of the Zambezi, the indigenous people began to live in the region where they had to adapt to greater uncertainty. Here, the climatic conditions are more variable because of the interaction of three climatic systems: the intertropical convergence zone that they already knew and that they could reliably read, the southern Indian Ocean system that would bring cyclones, and the Southern Ocean, where there were high seasonal variability because of the influence of the El Nino-La Nina oscillation in the Pacific. And of course, we didn't know anything about this until much later in our history. Today, we're having to adapt to higher temperatures, drought, and extreme events developing because of human-induced climate change on a global scale. And that's why we've got the Sustainable Development Goals, and the concerns for climate are evident. And what's notable here is that there have been changes so that favorable climatic conditions are declining, just as they declined when people moved south of the Zambezi. And then the hotter and more drought conditions and extreme events are coming to us. So we've got some learning to do, and perhaps we can learn from the past practices. So in this module on climate change, we start with the Sustainable Development Goals, then we look at landscape taming. Then we look at the manner in which indigenous peoples in the area over centuries predicted rain. We looked at migrating and disease control, and then we look at sustainable food production. And the whole idea is to develop a simple curriculum framework from tuning in to finding out more together, working things out, and then perhaps even taking actions for sustainability. And throughout this work, we need to be developing suitable assessment practices for the kinds of challenging activities that we're going to bring into classroom learning for ESD in the curriculum work that we're doing. And here are some references and materials that might be useful for this.